Hello there! What is going on, everyone? Today we are going to be talking about ship traits. What do they mean right now, and what might Atomic Mass games do for them in the future? Because I do think it's kind of one of those open doors that has a lot of potential hallways that we can venture down. And so, I feel like there hasn't really been much done with them right now. So, if you have been playing Armada, if you've been playing with the Clone Wars, you will have noticed that on the back of your cards, you're going to be seeing these little italicized keywords, although right here it's shown on the front, because when I use Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder, there have been some fantastic kind of reworks and tweaks done to kind of make the cards have both the front and the back on them, kind of imitating the original card size. So what are traits? Well, a lot of people will call them keywords, but technically they're not called keywords. They're called traits, and they're only used for list building, and they represent different kind of taglines that other upgrade cards can sort of hook into and allow that upgrade to go on to a specific ship, but maybe not every version of that ship. And so we're going to talk about these a little bit today. If you guys are new here, be sure to enter to win that $25 Amazon gift card just by being a subscriber and leaving a comment on this or one of my videos. Let me know some cool traits that you think should show up in Star Wars Armada. All right, so let's talk about the very few applications of how traits work right now. Currently, we have Clone Gunners is one version of a trait-based card that is in the game right now. And this is kind of why I think that these cards aren't really all that great, because or at least the current application. Now, I think this represents some fantastic future planning, and I think the Armada team, when they were at Fantasy Flight Games, probably had a pretty nice roadmap on how they wanted to do this, because all of the Clone Wars ships have a variety of traits, and we're going to talk about some of those different traits and what things that those might mean. But none of the Imperial and Rebel ships have traits. And I think that that also represents a possibility for Atomic Mass to do some ship card reprinting for the Empire and the Rebels, and potentially maybe get the sizes all standardized. I know a lot of people like the old card sizes, and I do too. I would love for them to kind of do them in either option too. Like that would be, I feel like I could do a whole nother video on just talking about card sizes and reprints and things like that. But there are people out there. I know Peter Saber is doing does some card reprints. So if you want to get the large cards redone, with all the information on them, you can do that as well. But before I get too off topic of the video, these traits are only for the Republic and the Separatists, at least currently. Now, I hope that does change at some point in the future, because it gives us a whole lot of cool options and ways to restrict cards and give list building a lot more cool fun factors, and gives them also a lot more doors and opportunities to make awesome, groovy upgrades that won't necessarily break the game. So I like what these can do. But in the case of a card like Clone Gunners, that is a weapons team option that is also restricted to clone only, it currently fails to hit the mark, as currently every ship that you'd want to take this on has the clone option. So there's no opportunity cost here. There's no Clone Gunners would work great on this ship, but it's not a clone ship, right? Like you don't have options like that yet. So it certainly gives us the framework on how an upgrade like this could work. But in this case, the very few ships that don't have, like the ships that don't have weapons team, also it doesn't matter. And so some of the ships that don't have, and most ships have the clone keyword, but some of the few that don't have weapons team anyway, and they're not ships that you're going to want to take Clone Gunners on. So what is really going to matter is we're going to need to see that ship, right? We're going to need to see that maybe a Victory Star Destroyer might be a cool option for something that might not be clone as the keyword. Maybe we'll see that ship that, or a Mandator, that ship that has gunnery team, has a really cool side arc, but doesn't have the clone keyword, so Clone Gunners might not be an option. Although, granted, probably gunnery team is probably going to be the way to go there anyway. But we'll have to see. And then a similar problem with the droids. Every single CIS ship has the droid keyword currently. So you have cards like Battle Droid Reserves. Oh, it's droid only. Well, what's the point of making it droid only? I think it was just there to kind of paint an example of, hey, here's what an example of how the traits might work. The problem is, once we got into Wave 10, there were no new, well, not many, italicized requirements. The SFAT, or the SFAT, it does want a Star Destroyer only, so that is a slight requirement, but that's not really keying into the trait. So it's kind of similar, but not exactly the same thing. You're what you're looking at here is you're looking at just the example of how it could work, but not really how it does work, right? And so this also asks the question: are we going to get? I mean, if they're making a card over here like Battle Droid Reserves, is faction locked? Okay, so it's already locked into the Separatist faction. Cool. And on top of that, it says droid only, which de facto sort of also already makes it Separatist only, because there are no clone ships that say droid, that have the droid keyword. Now there could be, theoretically, rebel ships someday that say droid. There was that New Republic prison ship in The Mandalorian that was largely crewed by droids. I could see that. If they wanted to push forward in a Mandalorian time frame, you could probably put that prison ship in as like a flotilla or something like that, and it could be a droid keyword. So droid can possibly show up. Maybe we'll find out at some point that the Empire was still using droids for a significant enough percentage of their crew on certain ships, such that droid might apply to an Imperial ship at some day when they start doing that. Maybe, but right now, it's bad enough that they solve all that by just making it Separatist only. So why did it need the droid only keyword if we aren't going to be getting, at least at some point, the possibility of a Separatist ship that does not have the droid keyword? Now, what in the world could that be? Well, you did have some worlds that did not run primarily with droids, like Geonosians, but maybe we'll see some Geonosian ships showing up in the game. Like at a glance, their starfighters come to mind, but they're capital ships perhaps, or maybe some kind of Sith ship. But then I feel like we're getting into the Old Republic era, and that doesn't really seem to fit with the whole timeline. So I guess we're gonna have to see. So what are some of the keywords? Well, I like the Consular Armed Cruiser as a version of one of the ways that will make ships different, right? Because our C-70 Charger has the clone keyword, but the Consular Armed Cruiser is Senate and comms. So Senate is an interesting one. Perhaps we'll get Royal Guard at some point. A lot of these keywords do seem to feel like they are crew based, but that doesn't necessarily have to be true. By the way, I dig that lat with the red too. That's pretty groovy. But Senate is an interesting one because I feel like they could have special turbo lasers or ion cannons or ordnance or certain weapons that were Senate only. I would think that when they eventually put Palpatine in the game, if he does show up in the game for Clone Wars, I mean Chancellor Palpatine, he perhaps could come with some Senate only upgrades. Maybe a really, really strong upgrades that turn a cheaper ship like the Consular Armed Cruiser into a really strong ship. However, since it's the Senator, since it needs to be his kind of protective ship, then maybe I guess where I'm going with this is you could turn this into like his bodyguard ship, and all of a sudden it's an up-armored Consular class armed cruiser because it happens to have the Senate keyword. And wouldn't that be a cool way to kind of make a ship like really, really strong? Like, for example, this ship has defensive retrofits. So what if you wanted to come up with a defensive retrofit that was like really incredible, that gave you 4 extra hull or something like that, or an extra shield on all 4 sides, but that would be 2 broken on a Venator or 2 broken on a Star Destroyer or whatever. If you make it Senate only, and that could also even if you didn't make it faction locked, that could potentially apply to the Empire. The Empire didn't dissolve the Senate until the later days of the Empire, so the Empire still had the Senate for a while too. I could see a CR-90 being a Senate ship, like the Tantive V4. Leia was a senator when she was using her ship, so like there's a lot of possibilities there. Comms, that just sounds very much like activating squadrons and things like that. We do see comms on a lot of ships. I feel like that could go in a lot of different ways, whether it goes to activating squadrons or potentially passing tokens from one ship to another, or basically it just feels like a support keyword. So, I can't think of too many ideas and how that would be, crazy broken or whatever. But I mean, it just seems like a good option to have if you want to kind of make certain ships more chosen over other ships. Clone, we've already talked about. Transport, that sounds to me like, increasing your definitely squadrons, possibly boarding teams. Boarding teams is an interesting one for that because we don't have a whole lot of boarding teams yet in the Clone Wars. That's something that we started to see a lot more of with the Rebels and the Empire, and I think it's definitely something that we're going to see in the Clone Wars. It definitely should happen, and I think they've laid the groundwork for that to happen. But the one keyword that excites me quite a bit is bombard. Bombard, it sounds like one of those keywords for really, really heavy ship-to-ship combat, kind of like that opening scene in episode 3, where you have the Venator flying alongside the Invisible Hand, and they're just like, they're just broadsides into each other, all cannons firing, boom, 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 boom. Like, to me, that's what I think of when I read the keyword bombard. And so I would love to have some really, really heavy turbo laser upgrades that might be too powerful if you did them like in large quantity on like CR-90As with a TR, like a TRC or something like that, or hammerheads, or cheaper ships that happen to have turbo laser or something like that. Or I mean, and it might not be turbo lasers too. These could be ordnance. Maybe you've got an ordnance upgrade that adds 5 black dice to one attack. Oh, wouldn't that be crazy? Wouldn't that be crazy? But one of the problems that might not be quite so broken on your flagship or on like a really bigger ship, but it might be kind of broken on a Gorell's Honor hammerhead that gets dropped in with profundity. Surprise, surprise, boom, here's a giant two-fisted punch to the face. That might be a little bit too much. And again, that's just a rough idea. It doesn't have to, that might be too many dice for something like that anyway. But the idea is it allows you to do potentially more powerful and, dedicated heavy ship combat stuff while controlling which ships can take it. The Pelta has been a ship that I thought was kind of underwhelming, as far as it didn't really do anything that nobody else could do, and so it didn't have as much of a unique function, at least as it applies to the clones. But then you look at the medical frigate that has the medical keyword. I'm like, well, that's an interesting keyword that could allow for a lot of interesting options. And this is, obviously you think of medic, you think of healing people, healing stuff. Maybe it's just something that can take a card that has been discarded and then like flip it back over, so you could use it potentially again. Maybe it could save a squadron that has been defeated, or maybe it could restore, kind of like how Yularen can heal squadrons, although that's more mechanical stuff. But I think, what if the pilots were lost, but your opponent didn't get the points for them? Like you recovered escape pods or something like that. Like that could be a kind of a cool option for medical. Like, all right, you killed this, but I can save maybe some of the points. Maybe you only get half points on a ship that you destroy, unless of course you table me, or unless of course you kill the medical frigate, because the medical frigate picked up all the escape pods and is going to fly away, so I save points. Like those are some ideas. Like, that'd be pretty cool. And of course, the Jedi keyword, which came out, in Wave 10, It just gives so many cool options. And while we have a lot of Jedi folks, it makes me wonder what kind of cool things we're going to see in the future. Are we going to see Yoda show up in this game, kind of doing battle meditation, kind of organizing the fleet? Maybe he can only go on a Jedi. Like the Jedi cruiser, and again, it makes sense for some Jedi to be restricted to the Jedi cruiser. Some people would only be on a really, really big ship. I could see maybe Mace Windu or Yoda potentially being restricted to a Jedi cruiser. And it might not be if they're commander, but maybe the officer versions of them. Because don't forget, there's a lot of people, there's a lot of commanders, that can also show up as officers. And I think that they will want to do that for sure with the Clone Wars. And then of course, we talked about the droid keyword. I don't know if droid is going to really be a significant keyword, or if what is going to be most significant is the absence of the droid keyword on certain ships that now all of a sudden have great potential, but that one glaring omission, which means, they now don't have access to certain crucial upgrades. I guess we'll have to see. But yeah, that's going to do it. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Be sure to check out the links in the description below. Jump in my Discord. Share your thoughts with me. I would love to talk with you guys. We have a great family-friendly Discord that talks about Armada, X-Wing, Legion, all kinds of tabletop games. Big thanks to my patrons as well. You guys are absolutely amazing and help make this channel possible. So thank you for your continued support. I will talk to you soon. And as always, have a great day.